Welcome into Colts Talk, presented by Prize Picks. Billy BB back with you. PFF, Pro Football Focus. They listed depth charts for every single team, kind of released their look at how each team will look a little bit before OTAs and whatnot. Lot on there to digest for the Colts, and we've taken you through our depth chart looks before, but there were some things wildly wrong on these depth charts. I think it really says sometimes about the national view of the Colts and an outsider's view of the Colts. So we're going to have some fun going through what PFF kind of messed up. And I think it goes back to position battles in the Colts overall. So it'll be fun to take a look at there. As we get into it, PFF, they aren't the only ones who might not know what's going on with the Colts roster. The battles, the mistakes people have, the free agency additions, the new names, the old names. Make sure you share with the friends so they are up to date just like you are by watching this video. You can text the video to share it. Be sure you do that right now. All right, so credit to PFF. This is what they kind of got right on the, guess or their, predictions for the depth chart for Indianapolis. Some of it pretty easy, right? And a couple odds and ends. Like I did note, O-line, it seemed like they had the backup left guards and backup right guards switched over. So there's just little things like that. But the O-line was good overall. Running back, tight end, safeties, outside corners, quarterback, all easy stuff, right? You know the names, you know the starters. It's hard to mess that up. But let's get into what the mistakes were for PFF going through the Colts depth chart. And we'll talk about all the, circumstances around each position. The wide receiver ordering overall got a little clunky, just a little odd. And look, that's all based around the Colts search for wide receiver 2. It is Pierce, it is Downs, and who, right? The big thing here is we take a look at the left wide receiver depth chart. And look, I know some people buy more into a wide receiver 1, wide receiver 2, slot receiver. I understand that. We'll stick with for this segment and how PFF did it. On that left side, Ashton Dulin, Nick Westbrook-Ikhine, and Eli Pancol at that 1, 2, 3. On the left, interesting. On the right, Alec Pierce, Deion Burks, Laquan Treadwell. And again, that's the right side with Pierce starting, Burks as the backup, then Laquan Treadwell. The slot position, pretty easy stuff here. Downs and a couple names to back him up. I mean, it's Josh Downs' spot, right? And say how you want about the backups, but like this is pretty correct in who will back up Josh Downs at that slot position. Now, my interest, my noted mistake for PFF in this wide receiver grouping, left and right wide receiver, they had Alec Pierce on the right. He'll be the right wide receiver. He actually played pretty split snaps between the two. He moved over a little bit depending on, again, things change and schemes change and people in and out and what you're trying to do with different players. So, I'm not saying that Pierce is either going to be a left or right wide receiver. I think that should be noted. We'll see where he ends up playing. Again, could just keep splitting, right? That's something there. Now, as far as the other side of Alec Pierce, wherever he ends up, whether it is the left or right side, Ashton Dulin, really very interesting pick by PFF to go as the number, again, left, right, wide receiver 1, wide receiver 2. I know there's a little bit of but essentially Downs, Pierce, and Dulin. That's who they chose as the other guy to go with those two guys. I'm sorry, that ain't it. That's not what's going to happen here. Nick Westbrook-Ikhine, look, numbers-wise, wasn't his best season last year. And Dulin has, worked it in the NFL to make it happen, from a small school to making it happen for himself with the Indianapolis Colts. This may be his shot. I'll give him his credit there. But overall, I think Nick Westbrook-Ikhine, there's NFL experience there. He has, and again, last year wasn't his best, but he has, a good NFL season under his belt. He has multiple NFL seasons of productive work and teams that believed in him under his belt. I think that other side of Alec Pierce is his job to lose, whether it be to Dulin, somebody else on the roster, or a possible free agent. Now, the next spot that PFF kind of messed up was CJ Allen's spot. That's right. The soonest pick in the draft, the first pick, not their first rounder, but the first pick for the Colts in the 2026 NFL Draft. Take a look at the middle linebacker depth chart for them. Jalen Carlisle, that's who they had starting at that middle linebacker position, ahead of C.J. Allen, ahead of the fellow rookie Bryce Betcher, and ahead of West Weeks, who competing to make the roster here. Carlisle is a guy that was drafted as a safety, has more coverage ability. I don't know if it's just, the idea of him, having a little more experience or being in Indy a little more for a few years or however we want to put it there with Jalen Carlisle. But this is CJ Allen's spot. It's already been talked about that he'll possibly wear the green dot. That starter talk, that's interesting talk from him in general. So that's interesting. And then we saw Akeem Davis-Gaither. He's starting at the will linebacker position. I believe in that. I think that's correct. I think that's where those two guys should go. Also, Carlisle has struggled with health over the past few years, so I don't expect him to be able to necessarily step in and just be the starting middle linebacker for Indy. Reminder, today's show is presented by Prize Picks. That is America's #1 sports picks app. And right now we're playing on it every single day. Why? Best place to win cash while watching sports. The lineups on Prize Picks, really, really easy to put together. You just pick more or less on a few player stats and then lock in your lineup. Are you a baseball fan? You can go with hits, home runs, strikeouts. If you're a basketball fan, and by the way, playoffs not going on much longer, you can go with points, rebounds, assists, blocks, three-pointers. You can even package them together if you're feeling good about that and want that number in your lineup. Here's an example, upcoming playoff game to take a look at. Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, we're going more on points, rebounds, assists combined at 44.5. We're going more on that one. And then Victor Wembanyama at a half double-double. Will he get a double-double? We went more on that one there. You can go more, less, more, less. Right? You can kind of put those lineups together pretty easily on Prize Picks. Also, right now, with the new social feeds feature, you can share the Prize Picks lineups with a single click. That's right. Follow your friends just like you would on social media. An example, you can follow me, Billy, at Billy_BB, or producer Aiden at CSAP. Right now on Prize Picks, they also have early payouts. So if your player gets off to a hot start, you now have the option to cash out those winnings before the game even finishes. New user offer for you guys right now. If you download the Prize Picks app today, the link in the comment section and description, and use code HMA to get $50 in lineups after you play your first $5 lineup. That's code HMA to get $50 in lineups after you play your first $5 lineup. Prize Picks, it's good to be right. The will linebacker position for the Indianapolis Colts, they went out and got veteran Akeem Davis-Gaither to fill that spot in Indy. I thought that was a good move. I felt like that was the right move for the Colts. This is who I expected to start. I don't have a ton of issues at the will linebacker position in general. For Indy, at the linebacker room, this is CJ Allen's job at middle linebacker. He would have to look completely lost during all the offseason stuff for the Colts to lose that middle linebacker job. Should be CJ Allen and Akeem Davis-Gaither at the Mike and Will linebacker spot. Carlisle's former safety, more of a coverage linebacker, struggled with health. This guy is not your middle linebacker in 2026. I think it was one of those things where PFF, maybe some good grades, good stats, a little bit of veteran, presence, few years in the league, they threw him over him. So I'm going with CJ Allen and Akeem Davis-Gaither. They're correct in those spots there. As we get to defensive end, and look, the scheme stuff for the Colts, sometimes these guys are technically outside linebacker, edge rusher, defensive end, but the gist of it overall right on the defensive end position. That left side, that right side. The ordering, a bit of a mess. Just a mess overall. Let's start with that left side. Michael Clemens listed as a starter. I don't know. We spent a lot of time talking about our guy Latu. Caden Curry, I've hyped up plenty. And then you've got your rotational pieces, right? So that's how it looks on the left. You head to the right. More correct, Arden Key, then George Gums Jr., the rookie from Florida, who, by the way, has been described multiple times as a very raw prospect with a long way to go. A lot of development ahead of him. Our guy JT after that, and then Mitchell Melton. So, overall, on that end, defensive end, left and right, I think just it's pretty set, right? The probable starters there are Latu and Key. Arden Key and Leatu Latu. Those are your two guys, predicted at those positions. Then you go to the depth pieces, right? It's Michael Clemens, it's JT pushing for more time, pushing for more opportunities. Then it should be the rookies after that. Clemens isn't jumping Latu, right? And George Gums Jr. is not jumping JT Tuimoloau at this point in time. I think that one, I know there's some depth. There's going to be some competition at that position, but definitely seems like PFF very, very off in general with that one. Speaking of Arden Key, he was one of the bigger free agent pickups for the Colts, especially defensively. I'm curious, fill in the blank for us. Arden Key will have blank sacks in 2026. This will be our pinned comment. Give us a number down below. Then comes the nickel corner position. And boy, were they all wrong at this one. All over the place. PFF, and again, they had some massive layoffs recently. So, hey, maybe this was somebody's job to do, and they unfortunately lost their position. They still had Kenny Moore listed as their starter. They had a few other names in the group at different positions that I just had to get off there with cuts and whatnot. Jonathan Edwards as the backup here for the Colts, and that was it, by the way. 2 names. That's all they had at the nickel position, which is egregious because this is one of the biggest battles / adjustments that the Colts will have in general. Jonathan Edwards is not a nickel corner, is not a slot corner, is not whatever you want to say. That's just not really where he's played. Played way more outside corner, a little bit in the box, a little bit at nickel, like here and there, I guess, maybe to fill in or a play or two. But, man, this is not a nickel corner. The Colts are going to have a competition for that nickel corner, and Edwards is not going to be a part of it. He is not going to be in the mix whatsoever. He is an outside corner. That's where he should and probably will remain. Justin Wally, Cam Mitchell, Eckler, even Austin Brown, who's an undrafted free agent. We'll see on that one. Wally just... It's crazy that they didn't even have him as the backup because, even like Carly Ursay-Gordon is saying, guy looks great. We're so excited to have him. He looked awesome last year. Different players have said the same thing. So, nickel, definitely, their farthest away. They were the most wrong at the nickel position in general. Now, there were a couple other ones. I mentioned, running back 3 or 4. There's some backup spots. Safety is an interesting one. I just didn't want to give PFF, too much. Ping them too much for these ones because they are going to be tough. They are going to be tough to handle and figure out for the Colts coming up here. Let's start with quarterback 2, right? That's probably the biggest one. Looks like Anthony Richardson. That seems to be the vibe, but I know a lot of people want that Riley Leonard shot to go against him. Running back 3, it's Taylor, it's Giddens. Then I've got McGowan. Seems like McGowan from what we've heard, but I get the Ulysses Bentley thing also, so I'm not going to fault them for that. Defensive tackle, different names, at right defensive tackle, left defensive tackle, nose tackle, common defensive tackle. There's a bunch of names there. Plus, that's why the Colts added so many. So, I know PFF was just trying to sort through, different schemes, different fits, different packages, different names. Safety right now, Cam Bynum definitely seems to be the one automatic name, and then they just have a hodgepodge of free agent signings, rookies, and versatile guys, right? So that also makes it could play free safety, could play strong safety, could play special teams. I don't blame them for trying to figure out exactly who's going to be opposite Cam Bynum, who's competing with Cam Bynum. I like Cam Bynum, so I feel good about that one there, but that's kind of where the Colts are at with that. All right, we broke it down, the PFF depth chart predictions for the Colts as of right now. However, I want to see, did you watch the whole dang thing? If you made it to the end of today's video, be sure to type me.